Okay. I still hate that thing. For all those wondering. Don't like them telling me recording's in progress. We could have skipped out on that update. But mental health's a big thing. We've done a lot of it on the show. Thank you for everyone that listened to the Justin one. Appreciate it. Keep sharing it because I know he's shared with hundreds of us. So I know there's some on the health. Someone just found out 2 days ago. So I know there's people that still haven't even found out about that. On top of already dealing with everything, stressors in life, which is why the number is going back up. Sadly, suicide numbers are back, right around their peak again. Shocker. No one should be surprised there, even, because they did say we're going back to normal. Hot damn, we are. And now we encourage people and make money, make $1 billion industry off of encouraging mental health problems and, psychological clusterfucks that we walk around with every day because people suck. Thankfully, there's a face that none of you will see if you're watching this, but, no one really, the YouTube numbers are hit and miss. So you're not really missing anything. If you're listening, you get to hear the voice. That's all that matters. She's a miserable fuck. She hasn't showered yet, so she looks worse than me, which is saying something because she got the better genes when it comes to, looking like a human being. I look like a mongoloid homeless person with a half tooth. It's fun. We've been talking about doing one of these for education for a while. Now we're going to educate you guys on some mental health numbers. I got some civilian stuff, some veteran stuff. Just the important stuff in a conversation that no one actually wants to have in the country because we're more worried about, ooh, look over there and what they distract us with than, things that are actually fucking happening because we're a bunch of mongoloid idiots. So, without further ado, I'm sure she could say something and we can move on with this. And I'm going to keep staring at that little block that at least says her name right now because it didn't even do that when we got hooked up on this. So
good morning, everyone. I'm Megan. I study mental health and trauma-related mental health specifically. So that's a little bit of the expertise that I am offering to this segment today.
yeah. Pardon me leaning back. Well, it's nice to sit there and have someone else talk. I haven't done that in a while, but no point in getting into, all the BS of our lives. But we're not experts, but quite knowledgeable on issues, shall we say. I'll go with issues that could, especially ones for veterans for me. I've been there, done that, deal with it every day. I think I might actually be clinically depressed right now, if everyone's being 100% honest. I still ain't sleeping right. No desire to eat. Just, but I'm going to come out of it. Just, the whole thing with Justin really isn't sitting well and caught me off guard. But, like she said, she knows a thing or two about this. And I know a thing or two about this. And the stats with both, civilian and veteran suicides are back pointed in the egregiously wrong direction. And it took, 10 minutes for them to go back there? After finally getting a decline for 2 years, suddenly everything's right back like nothing happened, which is kind of terrible in my eyes. And it says a lot, but I'll go on that tirade soon. We'll go with soon. I know I'm going to have, stats don't lie on that, and everyone can eat some sort of pinkish object. It doesn't matter what you feel. Stats don't lie. Don't get me started on job creation shit. While they're already there, everyone went back to work. That's not creating anything. But that's another argument. I already had it this morning because people suck. But without further ado, I'm going to let her jump in there and let me know what she has to say on some numbers. I can cross off what I also had wrote down then. So that way I don't have to repeat it because I'm sure I've done it ad nauseum at some point to everyone that listens to this thing or watches it. But without further ado, she's going to go over some stuff because I don't feel like talking.
So yeah, just going over some of the statistics, approximately 132 people a day commit suicide on average. And depending on what resource you look at, anywhere between 17 and 28 of those a day are veterans. The most at risk demographic for committing suicide are men between the ages of 25 and 45, which make up a really good percentage of our veteran population. Not that we don't have female vets that commit suicide, but the male population in general between 25 and 45 is the most at-risk population for actually attempting and or successfully completing suicide.
Absolutely. Sadly.
Now, if you look at the trends for that, for suicides in general, it stays relatively consistent throughout the year. There are no large drops, there are no large upticks. However, there are slight drops and slight upticks. And April is statistically the lowest month for suicides. And unfortunately, the end of October into the beginning of November, there is always a slight uptick in suicides. And that is, it can be contributed to a lot of things. Seasonal depression is a huge factor. The changing of the time and sunlight hours and the amount of vitamin D you're getting and all of that plays into it. But I wanted to read a passage from one of my favorite books on trauma. It's extremely well known. The author is actually a gentleman named Bessel van der Kolk. He is part of the original team that really identified PTSD as a mental health crisis back after the Vietnam War. He has done this his whole life. And this book is, it's called The Body Keeps the Score: Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. And this is what he specializes in. But I just want to read this passage from page 14, because I think that it really explains why this time of year can be so overbearing and difficult for people suffering from PTSD. So it's called The Numbing. It says, maybe the worst of Tom's symptoms was that he felt emotionally numb. He desperately wanted to love his family, but he just couldn't evoke any deep feelings for them. He felt emotionally distant from everybody, as though his heart were frozen and he were living behind a glass wall. That numbness extended to himself as well. He couldn't really feel anything except for his momentary rages and his shame. And he described how he hardly recognized himself when he looked in the mirror to shave. This time of year, with the holidays and, you know, trying to get together with people, and it's the time when you're supposed to feel joy and you're supposed to feel all of these other emotions. And if you just don't, and you can't figure out why, and you can't figure out how to fix it, you end up in a helpless loop. And, there's a lot of theories behind why there's always an uptick around the holidays, but I think that numbness and that description of how Tom feels in the very beginning of this book, this is just helping to lay the foundation for this book. But I think that is an amazing description that a lot of people, it resonates with a lot of people. Especially if you have PTSD, if you've had traumatic experiences and you just don't know how to get back to being yourself.
And in some instances, that's never going to happen. Sadly, I think what I saw, I don't remember who it was, but it goes back to, you've seen it. We've all seen it, where it was a naval corpsman, I believe, said, if you join the army, it takes this amount of time to go back to, to readjusting to be a civilian life, Navy, yada, yada, yada. But once you're, a Marine, we can never fully adjust back to that, and a lot of that is, very true. And then there's a lot of, you know, PTSD is, obviously a huge one. And like you said, like, finally after Vietnam, even though they still called it shell shocked, and I still don't think that the VA or anyone gives an honest, gives a single fuck about it. Pardon my French, but I know how much they care about my health care. So I can just imagine how it is for, some people out there. And then, you got the Marine Corps birthday, and, especially when you suffer from PTSD, and, you're trying to get through it. And then let's say, for instance, I know a lot of guys that even lost their wife, children, they lose their whole families, which, then just adds on, it compounds, what's already going on inside of their head, and all those feelings that, were just described pretty damn spot on in that passage that you read. And it just, it just adds another layer to just really the emptiness, and no, actually the emptiness that you feel, really numb to everything. It's all, don't worry, been there. We've all been there, really. But it's just a bad time of the year for, you know, all of those things. Again, not everybody that, we end up losing, has lost their whole entire family or anything. But, that compounds when all of, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff is there, and you just have the memories to look back on, which is just, some people, that was the only thing holding them together. That I can guarantee you from some of the guys that I've, lost, and they lost that. And, really sadly at that point, I mean, pretty much everyone feels like they're helpless and it's not solvable, which is the biggest, heartbreaker of it all. Because the only thing they stop from, they don't stop things from getting worse. They just take away the opportunity for anything to actually, you know, get better. And that's the biggest, heartbreak of it all. The families left behind sucks, but, it's just that you have to feel that helpless and that nothing has a chance of getting better. But all you do is, pass that pain on to others and leave a bunch of questions for them, and stop your life from being able to improve. Because no matter what, I mean, everything can get, better. It might take months, days, weeks, months, years, for it to finally do it. But sooner or later, I think we could both say from experience, things do take the upward swing. And it's just, some people just don't get to see that in their life. And that's the tragic part.
Well, and I think that there's a couple of things that play into that. First and foremost, especially for men and especially for veterans, we have a culture that still shames people
Reaching out
into
for help.
not asking for the help that they need. Yes. Yes. You feel
Of
like
everything.
you're this big, strong man, and you were a Marine, and you were all of these things. You were a hero. You can't ask someone else for help because you have feelings. That's absurd. But unfortunately, that's exactly what you need.
Yeah.
We teach people to bottle everything up and don't talk about it, and not to show people the ugly parts of ourselves. But unfortunately, that's the only way to fix it. And until you've come to terms with the fact that that has to happen, you're snuffing out your own chances of remedy, and you're stunting yourself into feeling this way and letting it fester and letting it get worse, because culturally we put a stigma on mental health issues still to this day, even though almost half the population is diagnosed with some sort of depressive disorder.
Yeah, those numbers have cataclysmically rose just from hell, back when we were teenagers. Might not have been that long ago, but, and I know
But that's
I
because
look at the
people
Spotify
started to
numbers.
talk about it.
Yeah, I look at the Spotify numbers. I see the age group that mostly listens on there. I'm nowhere near any of you in that demographic, but dear God, if it's jumped this much from me and hers time to now, it has to be ungodly for, that population, just to see, how it is. And, really, I put, they're not the same thing, but like addicts, until they're ready to help themselves,
Correct.
you
It's
could
the same
you could
thing.
throw
It
the whole
really is.
entire book at them, but it's not going to make one lick of difference until they're
You're
actually.
still in that same torturous cycle, whether you are an addict or not. The addiction
It's the same
in
thing.
this case is the mental illness.
Yeah.
You keep thinking you can do it on your own. You're going to quit being sad cold turkey. That's not how it works. You
Yeah.
need to talk about it with a professional who's trained to teach you to think about it in a different way, because really cognitive behavioral therapy, teaching you how to rethink about issues and putting them in a different perspective for yourself, is the only way to get over those emotional roadblocks that you've built in your brain.
And whether it's you making yourself do it, you're going to it like you see everything falling apart and that's what gets you, or you just sit down and, because I know there's a stigma, and, a lot of veterans don't want to deal with the VA. I'm pretty sure one that said he would rather die
Mhm.
than go to the VA. Don't worry, guys. He did. Very old age, Evie loved him. I never met him. I never met him. So, yeah, all I know is that quote. And I'm pretty sure that quote might be in my file at the VA because how long it's been since they mentioned doing anything in Fayetteville. I think I said it rather, I'm pretty sure it was probably very grotesque and bloody what I said when they're, we can send you, you can wait 6 months to go to Fayetteville. And then something around that line came out of my mouth and they haven't mentioned it in like 8 years. So apparently whatever I said stuck because I don't even hear it. But, even if it's just a fellow veteran or just, friend and anything, just to at least get the ball of wax moving and to get, because obviously not everyone's going to be comfortable with going straight to a professional. And again, if it's a veteran, I fully understand because I had the same psychiatrist for my first 8 years. The bitch couldn't even pronounce my last name by the end of it. She pronounced it Helsinki at one point. And anyone that's ever seen my last name, believe it or not, it's all over here, right there. Nowhere near Helsinki. So I fully understand if you don't want to do that, but talking to a friend, a loved one, a fellow veteran, just someone just to at least get the ball of wax going, that you're comfortable with to start at least, opening those channels, I think is the proper, word for that, at least start that, that is a start. Anything, just, holding on to it, just ends in, tragedy in all situations. I mean, people just, can't hold it all in, hold on until they go off like a fucking hand grenade or nuclear bomb and they just leave a path of destruction behind them. So, I fully, whether it's again a therapist, a psychiatrist,
Well,
the
and there are
VA,
a
of
couple
anyone,
things.
talk to someone. Just start talking. You start talking, you'll start feeling better, and then that will open up, more comfort to bigger channels to help you, with people that are trained for it. But you have to start talking at least to someone, or it's just going to eat you alive. And I can speak from that personally. It'll kill you.
And there are
Literally.
a couple of things you can do when trying to find a therapist. Number one, the biggest thing with trying to find a professional to help you is to find somebody you click with. And it may be very frustrating. So you need to be prepared for that in the beginning. You might go through 4, 5, 6 different people before you find your person. But
Yeah.
it is important to find someone that you are comfortable with and who you feel like is paying attention and understanding what you say.
Yeah.
You may need to go online and find a therapist that is a veteran, or find a therapist who's married to a veteran. Find somebody that specializes in what you need. Don't just go to Bob down the street because he's got a psychiatric practice and you think his counseling service is close to the house, because Bob may not be qualified to deal with what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And Bob's not going to help you. And then it's going to compound the issue of you feeling like you're helpless
Yeah.
and that there's no hope.
Yeah, that's
You
wholehearted.
need to
Got to make sure
really
that you
go
click.
through and vet your therapists and find somebody that you are comfortable with. And it might take several tries, even without having, military background and issues. It was difficult for me to find a therapist for myself because I had special issues that your average everyday run-of-the-mill counselor did not know how to deal with or was not comfortable dealing with. I ran into that too when trying to find someone. So number one, first and foremost, you have to be comfortable with this person and they need to understand what you need. That's first. Secondly, if you're not finding a professional and you're just going to talk to somebody, it doesn't even need to be detailed. If you're not comfortable sharing details, don't. So, as you mentioned earlier, my daughter's grandfather, on my ex's side, he was a Vietnam veteran and was very sick. He had PTSD, had to deal with everything through the VA, did not have good experiences. But I can remember coming home when my daughter was 2 and 3 years old,
Jesus Christ, you
and
remember that long ago?
I would come home from work and she had spent the entire day with him. And he was her best friend and she was his too, I think, really. But I had walked in on them more than one occasion where he would have a movie on TV and be crying. And she would say, well, Pop, why are you sad? It's guns and it's not sad. And, to him, it was. And he would, in his own way, he was getting therapy from a 2-year-old because he would say things like, well, baby, Pop had some bad things happen when he was younger at the job that he did. And the guns make him think about that. And it makes me sad. And she would just get up and give him a hug. And in her own little way, she was helping him work through that. She had no idea.
Yeah.
And he gave no details. But he got to express his sadness and she got to help. So you can, in a way, get through things without the help of a professional and without giving details that make you or whoever is listening uncomfortable. But you need to have the strength of mind to be able to work through the details internally while expressing very little externally and maintain that at the same time. The third thing that I would suggest is, believe it or not, there are a ton of books out there, specifically geared toward understanding trauma. And until I started researching this, it wasn't something you knew. You see self-help books all the time, and they're all on dieting or like figuring out how to get divorced without hating your spouse and things like that. But they make books that will scientifically explain to you what's going on in your brain, why these traumas changed the way you think and the way that you see yourself, why your body reacts certain ways. Why do you start sweating whenever you have a flashback? Why do all these things happen? There are books that will explain things like that to you. So you can at least, even if you're not going to talk to somebody, you can understand the chemical reactions and the things that go on in your brain and why your body physically reacts the way that it does when you have flashbacks, when you have bad dreams, when you're triggered by a sound, why certain emotions make you feel the way you do. Like if you have memories and all of a sudden you're just sad and you stay sad for 3 weeks and you can't seem to snap out of it. There are books out there that will help you explain that to yourself. And personally, reading those books helped me more than therapy did, because I'm one of those people, you can't tell me what I'm supposed to do, because fuck you, that's why. I need to tell myself. So in reading all this and understanding the whole process of how and why it works the way it does inside my head, I was actually able to adjust my own behavior And then all of a sudden, I started to understand why the therapist was like, well, you probably shouldn't do that. You should do this. She was trying to change my behavior without changing my understanding of the behavior. And for me personally, I needed to understand it first in order to change it. So the books really, really helped in that aspect. And The Body Keeps the Score was probably one of the best that I read, only because it lays everything out in a scientific basis. And the gentleman is an expert on PTSD. He is one of the biggest advocates trying to make PTSD a diagnosable illness and treating it, and experiments for treating it. And just there's no bigger advocate out there than Bessel van der Kolk. And I really recommend that book first and foremost. There are a couple others. If you have a childhood trauma, The Deepest Well is an amazing book for that. There's also Complex PTSD, From Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. That's an amazing read. And Trauma Stewardship is also a really great book for just getting to know your brain and your reactions to help yourself and give yourself the tools and the understanding to help yourself.
Fuck you, that's why.
Yep.
I was waiting for it. It's like that
So far, I've only dropped one F-bomb. I'm proud of myself.
It's like the old Hardee's commercial with the half-naked girl standing there. Why did we put hot dogs, onion rings, French fries, and then on a cheeseburger? Because America, that's why. Like, that's pretty much your equivalent right there. Why? Because fuck me, literally. I mean, because they couldn't say because fuck you. That's why on the commercial, which I think, yeah,
But I can.
which I think, I do. But oh my god, for anyone that knows, YouTube threw, a big warning on one of them because I was like, I couldn't, like, they emailed me like I can't be mad. Why? Because I lost track. Like I don't even remember what I was mad about. But I know
if you need to go in and beat me out, I'll try not to be offended. But
like it was just rolling and just cracked the door. She's like, God damn. I don't know why I'm mad, but I was. But back to the topic at hand. I don't know why they just clicked together. I don't know. She said that, I was waiting for it. So don't know why it's even as funny, because I knew it was coming. It's just the way her brain ticks, everybody. It's even scarier in person.
You're welcome.
Till you realize she's only 5 feet tall. Then it's not nearly as terrible. Then actually, it's more terrifying if you think about it. Getting eaten to death by a chihuahua.
Compressed rage.
There you go. It's a scary thought. But some other big things, with all of it and the numbers, between the increases we've seen in the last, 2 years, obviously, up. But there were some number movements throughout the years that, need to be, discussed and can't be ignored, because something was obviously happening in that amount of time. But suicide was the 11th leading cause of death in the US in 2021, which was, not, pleasant, but it was at least a 10th in 2019. It was a 12th leading cause of death in 2020 during, all of that. So, numbers moved there, whether they're good or bad, but the higher the number, the less people were losing, obviously. So that's a good thing. Suicide
I have
rates.
a theory behind that as well. So, obviously this hasn't been proven, and I don't know that it can be. I'm not even sure it's anything you can test. But statistically speaking, people that want to commit suicide say it's because they feel hopeless and helpless and isolated. Yeah. But during 2020 and 2021, during the pandemic, everyone was isolated, which to somebody who normally feels alone, knowing that everyone else is alone makes you not feel so alone. If that makes sense.
It does. Because everyone's going through it. So, everyone.
And you're no longer isolated. You're no longer the weirdo.
It gives everyone a sense of understanding of exactly what those individuals, feel every single day, because it was forced on the whole population.
And they felt like, well, everyone feels like this now. So now it's really not as traumatic when other people are going through it.
I think it helped, people be more understanding of that feeling. And then there are people like, I already got it. And then there was, people like me saying, don't you tell me how to socially distance from people. I
I've
already
been
know how to
training for
do that.
this my whole life.
Damn it. But everyone, I think, on a serious note, got a better understanding of that whole entire process because, and again, it all depended on what state you were into because everyone was different. You guys were, astronomically different up there in PA than I was down here in North Carolina, which is why I had a bunch of friends come visit me from Pennsylvania. I'm not going to mention any names, but they came down there like, whoa, like, yeah, no, it's okay. But it's still America down here for the most part. You know, bars added food to their menus. They should have anyway. So, we didn't lose the whole world where in some places it was just like they had limits on how many people from one family could be in a grocery store at a time, which accomplished nothing. By the way, let's go. At least that's my personal opinion. Didn't really do anything. But back to real numbers, because I love numbers. I have a binder full of numbers. Saw the largest jump in over 2 decades with a 4% increase in both male and females in 2021. Then we get to actual big rates, like the rate increased 37% between 2000 and 2018. If I just headbutted the microphone with the bill of my hat, I apologize for the thud it made. Decreased 5% between 2018 and 2020. And, its peak was 2018. Then we were at 14.2 per 100,000. And now it jumped all the way. And then we took that big decrease and it was back up to 14.1 per 100,000 in 2021. There's some totals that I have, again, increased every year through its peak, which is in 2018, which is at 48,344. And then in 2019 was down 47,511, so 800 less people. And then we even went down even farther in 20, like astronomically farther down in 2020 with only 45,979, which does go, with what she was saying, because everyone felt it. And I really think that because no one could do anything, it led to more people reaching out and checking on people, which, believe it or not, just that little, quick text or a call to see how someone's doing can make the biggest difference in their world. I think, people were less shitty. I mean, we saw how bad 2020 was. I'm not saying that, but there's more understanding. So people were, and there's less people could do. So there's more communication, going on, is at least part of it, for me, why the numbers were going down. Because I think that, like you said, I think it helped, because everyone was going through it. So that could be a thing. And again, then there's socioeconomic, headaches that come, but I'm going to go on that tirade later. Don't worry, I'm ready. Now we get to veterans, which I know you probably have way more numbers because I already went over to some. So I only have a few before I get off my soapbox and let you go. But there are around 6,000 veterans in 2000, rose just under 6,800 in 2018. And it was down, which is an average of like a 47 increase every year between 2000 and 2018, which is an astronomical increase. Because there's not that many of us, believe it or not, in the country, veteran wise. But peak was 6,796 in 2018, was down to 6,146 in 2020, because we saw back-to-back years after an increase average of 47 a year for 18 years. We lost over, the number went down by over 300 for 2 consecutive years, and now it's back pretty much right to its peak, which means there was something happening in that 2-year span that was different than what I guess the other 20 years that we've lived through since 2000. Like there was something there. And sorry guys, but I saw someone report the calendar year numbers for 2022, which I thought was funny because the calendar year isn't over yet. So I don't know how they're officially reporting anything, and the fiscal numbers we probably won't see until like April, because that's what they do. They have a giant database to keep track of the shit, but we won't know until we're bombing some country somewhere and we're distracted, and then they'll put out the actual, they'll silently release the numbers. By the way, that's just the way the federal government works. That's not me picking on anyone. They suck. But yeah, we were actually at a very good down click, and number jumped again 110 2021. It's over to just under 6,400. And those numbers were increased 24% for females and 6% for males in the veteran population. But to go from losing over 300 a year, just, in the numbers. So we're doing good, to 110, increase the next year is not good. And I have an odd feeling that number for, this fiscal year isn't going to be pretty whenever they finally release the damn thing. But don't worry, when they release it, I'll be here swearing at someone. in front of this beautiful camera that my sister got me. It's not the microphone she got me. But anyway, now onto your veteran stuff, because I know you said you have a bunch of stuff. I just had to get off those little numbers that I didn't get off last time. If
Yeah.
she's
So, just talking about veterans, a couple of the things that I looked up obviously was the averages. And depending on what resource you look at,
yeah,
it's anywhere between 17 and 26 a day. And I think that the rally call is about 22
yeah,
a day is kind of the slogan. Um, that's 22 a day too many.
yeah,
So these are men and women that selflessly put themselves in harm's way to protect our freedoms, our rights. They are the men and women that left their families for months, sometimes years at a time, um, to go protect other people's families, strangers' families. And if you've ever been away from your family, even for a few days, you understand that it can be difficult. So, just put into perspective being gone for 6 months, sometimes without any communication.
yeah.
Can't send a text message, you can't call whenever you want to. Um, you know, I think a lot of people take that for granted. The kind of selfless sacrifice that really goes into being a soldier for this country. And then to come home and be dropped off on the doorstep with no aftercare for what has happened. I mean, anyone else these days, you go into any kind of traumatic event, like a school shooting, for example, they immediately have counselors and all kind of after services set up for the people that had to live through that are ongoing for months and even years at a time afterward for a one-day traumatic event to help people mentally get through it and to heal properly. And we don't do that for our veterans. After months and years and decades
Hey,
of their service and their trauma, we provide them nothing.
I'll speak from experience. 10 months. Yeah, gunshots 24/7, occasional explosions. Yeah, suicides happening on the base, working all day, then on the road all night, not sleeping, still PTing. Running on minimal anything. And we got back, and they put us in front of a computer screen to do our screening. Have you done this? And we all just blah, blah, blah. Everyone just goes through it, and that was it. And we just moved on with our lives. That's the care we got. Like, okay, cool. What are you suffering from any of these right now? Like, I don't loss of sleep, like I don't know what I was sleeping for like 20 minutes. We get like 3 hours of sleep a night of that. Like, I don't know. Am I suffering from loss of sleep? I don't know. Yes, but I don't know if it's because of mental stuff. And they don't give it to you. They give it to like a week. We're back, I think, maybe a week. And they gave us that. So, we're gone for 10 months. We're back for a week. Finally seeing people. Our schedules are completely just through the roof because, we weren't normal for 10 months. And we got a 2-minute questionnaire that we filled out on a computer screen about stuff that we wouldn't even notice because we went from doing that all the time to finally seeing family, friends, and loved ones, and trying to do that so you're not sleeping anyway. And they literally give you, like, I'm not joking when I say I filled out like a 5-page questionnaire on a computer where it was just click yes, no, and that was it. Peace, bye, see you later, adios, bye, con Dios, bye
And to me, that's
bye.
just absolutely disgraceful.
And then
There's
they
no
gave
reason that we can't do better. There should be mandatory therapy sessions for several months after, just to make sure that you're adjusting correctly. There should be resources and tools offered to you. There should be warning lists provided so that if you have symptoms of PTSD or any other kind of mental health issue that comes along with service, you should know what the warning signs are for that and what to look out for. And so should your friends and family in case you're not doing well.
Mm.
And none of this is provided.
And only way you get it is from veterans, me, everyone else out there sharing things on, social media to put things, into perspective. Like, hey, here's the warning. Here's, the symptoms of PTSD. Here's the ones of traumatic brain injury. And then there's the ones in the middle, which go with both. And there's what you need to be looking for. That's the only time I've ever seen it. I saw it hanging on a wall in the VA once, but, my mental health, doctor, again, couldn't pronounce my name, absolutely sucked. And really all her notes were ass backwards on what she was listening to. There was a language barrier. And the only thing she really cared about is, are your meds working? Like, kind of, okay, see you in 6 months. Like, thanks, doc. See you later. It's a blast. Thanks. No,
And I would just like to say that meds are not a cure.
Oh, no,
Period.
that,
Meds do not make you better. Meds make you numb in a different way.
but conveniently, I was one of the smart ones, shall I say, where the only ones that I've been taking for years, regardless, because I told her a million times I don't need this stuff because I work through it myself. The only stuff I take now is the sleeping one because, believe it or not, that head injury over there really, but I'm not sleeping without them. There's no reason I should drive, be up all night, be up all night, have an emergency surgery. So I'm up, in pain all night, have the surgery, and then drive home through the night without needing to sleep. And like there's something broken there. So I take one sleeping pill, or 3 of them, and another one for migraines. And all 4 pills that I take are all migraine prophylactic. So my head doesn't feel like it's going to explode all day. And those have been the only ones that I've been on for years because they actually do keep my head from wanting to explode as much. So those are the godsends. And I don't, but everything else that they tried to put me on, like, but the one that made me feel like I was literally, twitching like that and it didn't resolve anything. Like, the sleeping one, that's why I take it. The migraine one, because they work. They help me sleep. They keep my head from wanting to explode. But the other ones, they really just give you twitchingness and have to put you on a million other drugs and want to numb you from actually feeling anything. And that's why the problem doesn't go away because they
And
put you
it's
on that
not
so you don't feel it.
It's not that meds do not help, because while you're
Okay.
going through the processes of healing and doing therapy and working through what you need to work through, they will help
Yeah.
you so that you don't feel completely out of control, which
No,
is a positive. However, the meds alone
don't do
will
it.
never ever cure your mental
Yeah.
health issues. You need to put the work in behind the
Yeah.
meds. And
Don't
I
help.
think a lot of people run into a lot of doctors that are like, oh, just take this and you'll be better. And it doesn't make you better, it makes you numb. You have to put the work in.
Makes you dependent, which
Correct.
is why I keep, sharing everything, just on a side, note for it. Again, there's many, work through it. I have this. Believe it or not, I've come like if you look back to the first couple to where I am now, I've worked through a lot of, different anxieties and things that I have just by doing this and talking to that beautiful camera that you bought me. Uh, it helps, that's a good thing. The art, a thing, you can work out, hike, like there's a million things you might go through a million things just to try to find something, but there are also, again, activities out there that you can do to help your brain work through certain things. So don't think, it's a very, like, there's a lot of things out there. I guess that's the easiest way, to put it, just to find something, because there's something for everyone that will help you, like just to work through it, that, is calming and peaceful, and, puts your brain in a good place to help work through everything. At least
And
for
it
me.
doesn't have to be
Yeah.
something that you thought you would
Yeah.
enjoy. It doesn't have to be something that you enjoyed
Yeah.
prior to your trauma. It can be something totally new and out of
Yeah.
character. As
Like
long as
this.
it brings you some sort of peace, that's what
Yeah.
matters.
Like
It's your
doing
center,
this.
your grounding, and
Yeah.
that's what you need. That's
Like,
what's important.
like doing this. I put the show up the first time. There are people from both the Marine Corps and high school. You can talk. Like, I know, right? Well, believe it. Turns out all those years when no one got a word out of me were detrimental towards my well-being, just like painting. I mean, look at me now. I'm not bothering you guys as much anymore, but you guys were getting updates all the time. I didn't even know I could do it. And it's quite relaxing now. And it was just something I just happened to stumble upon because I was poor. And I was trying to make her an anniversary gift that meant something, as I couldn't buy her something. And I was like, it actually wasn't that bad. And look at me now. Trust me. She used to get updates like 3 times a day where I was just shooting them off. I was going. But, there's a million things out there. Really, the goal of it, try things, experience things. You're never going to know, what the thing is. It's like she said about, therapists and stuff. It might take a few to figure, to find one that you click with and that, fits and is right. But once you find it, it is, I don't even know a word for it, but damn, does it feel good. It's an amazing thing to finally find that thing. And again, I just stumbled upon it. And now it brings me peace and relaxation. And, even going through everything now, I'm still a crying, bubbling mess from everything. It's still nice to sit down and paint. It might take me an extra week and a half to get through anything because, my brain's not there, but it still brings me, some kind of something to help my brain, process and work through things. Just like when I was dealing with, that beautiful divorce. Ask her when I came home that December. I was a mess. I was way overweight. And God, look how much better of a mood I was in just by the time of your wedding. And I dropped 50 pounds at the same time because working out, that worked through a lot of rage for me. It's a great motivator, but I just think things that piss me off. And I work out and, my brain processes and gets through it. And that was just me personally. But it's a wonderful thing too. Like there's something out there for everyone. If one thing doesn't work, don't be afraid to try another thing because, no matter what, sooner or later, something's going to click and it can be life changing, both physically and mentally. Because once you start getting your mental game right, your body will, start cooperating more, at least in my experience. When your brain's, screwed up, doesn't really help anything. But when you're finally, clicking, it's a good thing. See, even the categories.
The body keeps the score.
Yeah. Like you said.
That's the whole point
Yeah.
of that book.
Yeah.
Honestly, it is. And I think another thing to keep in mind, one of the best ways to help yourself through the healing process is to help other people through theirs. Find a community
Yep.
that will help you help people like you. Together, we're all stronger. Here in Pennsylvania, there is a place called Camp Freedom. And Camp Freedom is for veterans. It's run almost entirely by volunteers, built almost entirely by volunteers. It's for veterans, first responders that have been injured, that they can come here and they provide areas for outdoor activities and hunting. And all of the accommodations needed for these men and women to be able to enjoy the outdoors, even with their catastrophic injuries and brain traumas and everything else. And it's almost entirely run by volunteers, many of whom are also veterans. So not only are they helping these people to feel like they can again and enjoy things that they enjoyed, even though, they may not be 100%, but it's helping the volunteers as well,
Yep.
to be able to, aid their brothers and sisters, even though we're now home and we're in the civilian life, you can still be, partners in the field, so to speak. So I'd encourage anybody that, might be going through some stuff. Don't give up on yourself, but maybe channel some of that energy of needing to do something into helping people that are suffering just like you're suffering.
Yeah.
It's one of the best ways to help yourself heal.
There's a lot of programs out there like that one. I can't remember the one, that's run by one owner of Home Depot. Arthur Blank runs it. And I mean, not a lot of veterans get into it, but once you're in it, you get lifelong mental health support for free and all kinds of things, and they help you work through a lot of things. And as much as I hate the Home Cheapo, call me crazy. Maybe it's just the one here and the one in Wilkes-Barre suck. Maybe it's just that. I don't know. I don't like them. But the owner of that, they actually do have a really good program that lives out in Colorado. Whenever I find it again, I'll look for it after we're done here. And I'll try to post that on the socials as well, because that's a really good program. And again, there's, big ones like that. There's ones like she mentioned, like they're all over the place. You just got to look. And there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help, you know, as might not feel like anyone wants to in the situation you're in. There's always someone out there, always. And like she said, there's even some that are veterans helping other veterans, which it's helping those people and they're helping themselves. And it's the double whammy, which can be quite uplifting towards your whole entire view on life. So can't forget that. Like, that's really, there's a lot of good stuff out there. It's just finding it, looking for it, or starting it. Like, you can do all kinds of things, and there's help out there. Amen. Not a lot of people seem to know it. Again, we don't make any. The world doesn't go out of their way to share any of these things with anyone that actually needs the help. We're more worried about pushing the next big pharma drug or anything down everyone's throat, not actually helping anything. So,
And I mean, think about it. When you really are down on yourself, the things that your self-talk, I'm useless, I'm pathetic, I'm this,
I
I'm that.
suck.
When you help another person, you feel good about yourself. And when you're able to help another person from that place of feeling like you have nothing to offer, and yet you can still step into a situation and help someone else, that's a powerful feeling.
A hell of a drug.
Because even though you feel like you're nothing some days, you can still step in and put a smile on someone else's face and help someone else get through their bad day. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That comes from a place of strength, even in a place of weakness.
Yep. It's just something people don't, Again, we don't put any emphasis on mental health in this country. So a lot of people that don't ever even get to hear anything, like this, because we're more worried about, distracting things and stupid things than, you know, getting a fix on anything that actually matters and will actually help the problems. If we don't give a damn about actually, doing anything that properly fixes the problem, we've turned into a very lazy, fix me now kind of thing instead of actually, which doesn't fix people most of the time. You actually have to put in the work, except you never get to hear about anything like that. But you will hear about, a new pharmaceutical every commercial break that's, going to help you do something, but it'll give you these side effects possibly, which means then you have to take something else, which just keeps the pill mill going and it keeps people sick instead of actually fixing anything. And I'm pretty happy that that's the most political thing I've said almost, an hour into this thing, but it's true. Big business runs everything. They're more worried about shoving stuff down your throat than anyone actually fixing anything. I'm not saying that obviously there's a lot of people out there. I'm saying we push, the quick fix instead of people putting in the work. And a lot of people just want it, which is why the problems don't get any better. A little bit of work can go a long way.
Well, and let's be honest, most serious mental health issues are not, they weren't a quick
Yeah, none of them
start.
are.
They're not going to be a quick cleanup.
Yeah. And sadly, we're in a world of fix me now, just give me the pill. And that does never solve the problem ever, ever, for anyone not listening like that. Again, it helps you when you're working through stuff, but just taking a pill, never going to fix the problem. You actually have to go in there and do the damn work. And if you do the damn work, there's beautiful life out there. Got distracted by a cat knocking on the door. Sorry, I turned my brain off for a second there. What do you want? But yeah, I think we need to do better. And again, the numbers show it. We all deserve, they all deserve, all those people deserve, still live. One is too many. And I know we're probably over 22 a day. Like, it has to be, which is, that's just veterans. It doesn't include, everyone in their regular day of life. Cause outside of veterans, there's still like 40,000 a year. And, there is help. There is hope. And the only time it's all gone is when you're no longer here to try to find it. So I hope everyone remembers that, because no matter what, there's always someone when you're in, that mindset that would rather not sleep for days on end, just letting you, unload everything and try to feel better. Million, like anyone would rather do that to help you than go to your funeral. Like, maybe that's just a veteran thing. I don't know, but I'd rather not sleep for a week just to let you unload everything than go to another funeral. Like,
There's a saying, not sure if it's an exact quote or not, but I'm going to try and get it close. But suicide does not end your pain; it just passes it along to the
yeah,
next generation.
yeah, it just hurts so many people behind you that are now left alone. That despair and, questions and not knowing, and, were they not enough? Like, it just opens the door for so much craziness. And again, I fully, I'm not, I get the mindset where it is to feel just completely helpless. But the only thing that does is pass that pain on to other people and take away any chance of it getting better. Because, I mean, look
And
at
I
every,
think most of us with a mental health issue, that's a part of that same stigma you would think. I mean, for most of us anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would rather carry that pain for my friends and family, myself, and shoulder that burden than pass my pain on to them. So suicide really is the opposite of what that hero's mentality for a veteran would be. Um, it's just it's yes, you feel hopeless and helpless, but that mentality of I got it, that should apply the same way here. It has to apply the same way here, because that's not something we want to pass on to our spouses or
yeah,
our children or our nieces and nephews and friends and family. It just, if it feels overwhelming to you, it may be that day. But that's just that day. And to make a permanent decision like ending your life will then ensure that it goes on every day for the rest of forever in the lives of those you've touched as well.
yeah. And again, I've been there, felt that. No matter what, there's always someone, and we're not, stigmatizing why, because the wars that go on inside, people's heads, like, I fully understand just wanting it, you know, to stop. And again, I know people that, like, every waking moment, they close their eyes, they're having flashbacks, they're doing, like, I fully understand, what the hell is like that people go through. I just really, the moral of this is that there's always help out there for anyone, and don't make a permanent decision, because there's always, you know, help. And I think we as a country need, literally the whole country need to do better at that, because those numbers shouldn't be that. And for the love of God, seniors shouldn't be the largest, jump in, you know, suicide numbers. Like, that should never be a thing, to feel that hopeless after, working for forever and seeing everything gone now. Like, yeah, that shouldn't be a thing. Like, they should be living their best life. So, this across the board, there's help, and it does, there's a chance to get better. And again, the veterans, I know how hard it is to get care that actually matters. It took them forever to give me a psych doctor, and now she literally, we don't even meet. You know what? I'm just an email away if you ever need me. But you're doing, she said, there's been so much improvement since I first got you. Like, yeah, well, actually, there's a lot of stupid involved then, but I kept going, and it does get better. And again, I feel for every veteran out there, and all, because some of them, there's just no chance of getting any at least quick, reasonable help. Hell, I wasn't sleeping and I was losing my mind. It took the VA's like, well, we can get you in 6 months. Thanks, guys, that's gonna fucking help. So I drove all the way to Vietnam with Walter and sat in the ER, and then miraculously they could see me the next week. Yeah, the VA needs to do better. Everyone needs to do better. And yeah, I understand where, at least the veteran side of it is coming from, because you see some shit, you do some shit. Your brain is altered for forever. And if you keep reliving the worst moment of your life all the time, I get it. I'm just pleading, for anyone that can hear this, reach out. There are people that love you and that will go through hell and back to get you the help that you need, even if that's just listening. We're all willing to do it. Don't call me after I've taken my sleeping meds, because I might fall asleep on you. But that's the only time I won't answer, is when I'm in a coma from those. Otherwise, me and everyone else, we're always there to answer the phone.
And there are other, avenues.
Yeah.
If he's asleep, you can always call 988, which is the National Suicide Hotline. There is someone on call 24/7 just to listen to your voice.
Dial 988 and press 1.
Correct.
And there's the Veterans Crisis Line, 998lifeline.org, where they have some people on there, the headstrongproject.org. Again, there's just, thing after thing. And even if it's just 911, like, someone will sit there and listen to you and get you to someone on one of those, from one of those lines to talk to you. Like, they're out there and that, and, again, I'm not talking trash on anyone. I know the stuff some people see and what that, and if you have to keep reliving that, you don't want to live it then, let alone every time you close your eyes. So I fully, get it, and the health sucks, but please just, reach out to something. I don't like seeing everyone's family's faces brokenhearted. And I mean, I'm tired of crying. I don't cry. Ask her. And it's, and I was just, this one isn't sitting right. We need to stop it. And there's a lot of help. So just don't ever think that, it's helpless and no one's out there for you. There's a lot of people that give a damn. And we're all here for you.
So all these resources and links, I assume, will be in.
Oh yeah, I'll put them in I'll either have them directly in the post, with all the links for the show, or I'm gonna probably do one in and of itself, just have the link, the information, who they are, and give them the whole thing, so it's not so clustered. But those links and the picture for dial 988, like, all that stuff will go up at some point. And I put the show, whether it's today or tomorrow, but they'll go up, and I'll probably again do it separate, give them their own individual outside of doing the show notes, because no one actually looks at those things. But they'll all get their posts, because everyone needs to know those resources. And anyone listening, if there's more resources, post them on the damn page. Post them everywhere you can, because no matter what, someone knows someone that needs it, and you just hitting share helps. Doesn't mean that the person's physically going through it and having those thoughts, but they're just sharing it so it can get on to someone else that might be scrolling and need it. And just that little bit, as much as I hate the social media and stuff, there's a lot of people, veterans, everyone, that just sits there and scrolls, looking for stuff. And if you could post that on all the socials, other people will see it and share it. And it at least brings, awareness to something. So if someone, is going through it, they can use it. If someone knows someone that is going through it, they can send it to them. It's just one of those little things that social media is actually good for, to help spread, certain things, if you get it in the hands of the right people. Other than that, social media is the devil. Say, they hurt my head, but since they put that breathing tube down my throat, I can't drink anything without dying. But anyway, that's all I got. They'll be shared, and if you see them, or at least if you're listening to this, go look for them and share them, because the more it's out there, the more people know about it, the more people can help other people. And try to get those numbers going back in the proper direction towards where they should be, which is 0, because no one should have to feel like that. and let's burn down the VA and start over again. So it's not such a shithole. But there we go. I mean, nice and leave it at that. Shithole. Anything else?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on and,
Oh, yeah.
being able to share in this topic, something I'm passionate about myself. And I hope that if it even reaches one person, then today was worth it.
Yeah. Because again, I want to thank everyone for, this and, for sharing out, the episode for, Justin and me bawling my eyes out with some memories from him, and everyone that shared it that got it to, his family members, because a lot of them reached out, even some that I never met. So that, meant a lot. So do the same thing with this and all the links to help everything. Cause, again, you might not think it does, but if it gets in front of one person and helps them, in any way, that's a victory for, all of society and the world. Because again, no one should have to deal with it and have nowhere to go. Cause that's a bunch of some big booty bullshit. Because there's a lot of resources. No one gives a damn about them in here, which is why, we're seeing so many stupid things pushed and, everyone's just making money off of other people's misery. And P.S., that's fucked. There's my last one for the show. You're just worried about making money off of it, not pushing, actual cures. You're a dick. You're a monster. What's a garbage human? Here's my shout out to Adina, and she still scares me. That is frightening. However tall she is, woman. That's scary. But don't forget, share the hell out of it. You know what platforms they're on. Sponsors are all there in the link tree. Didn't mention them last time. I'll mention it that much this time. They're on the link tree, which I share the hell out of it. Thank my darling little older sister. She'll be back again if this goes well to talk about education. And until we meet again, I'm out. Peace. Bye.